Okay, thank you everybody for joining us today. We have a great panel for you to hear from. There is a survey that pops up on your screen to ask your role in education. If you could take a second to fill that out. And we're going to jump right in. This is going to be a quick one, but we want to get Audrey and Liz to answering some of the questions that I know we want to hear about. So we're just going to start off by giving an overview of Educators Rising and how you can use it in your schools and your districts and even into institutes of higher ed, because we know that 60% of teachers work within 20 miles of where they went to high school. And I think these are some really great examples of how that works and how we can activate our own community. When we talk about grow your own in terms of Educators Rising, we first talk about a four-prong approach where we start with chapters, conferences, curriculum, get the students into the courses or in an after-school chapter or club. Then we work with the curriculum to embed those into your education and training pathway courses. Students get clinical experiences while still in high school, so they don't have to wait to college to figure out if that's something that they love or not. They can know if they're working with children is for them while they're still in high school. And also while they're still in high school, they can dual enroll and get some credits ahead of time so that they're one step closer. And we'll talk about that as well. The next step is going to college, picking your preferred enrollment and getting industry certifications. And then the last step of grow your own is to come back to your community to teach in that community. And I'm so excited about this map here. We have 38 state affiliates, and we also have Central California that just signed on as our latest regional affiliate, and Alabama, who signed on as our latest state affiliate. If you do not see your state highlighted in dark blue, that means we have a presence in your state, as we have a presence of Ed Rising in all 50 states. But if you're not in dark blue, feel free to reach out to me. We can talk about making your state an official state affiliate as well. Let's get into the good stuff. Let's get into Liz and Audrey, Educators Rising students at the high school level and currently student teaching. I am going to mute myself and let them introduce themselves and tell us about their current role in education right now.
Hi, I am Audrey Stoner. My current role in education, I am a 6th grade social studies teacher of record in the Litchfield Elementary School District in Arizona. So what that means is I am the teacher in the classroom, and I am completing this as my student teaching. So through my school, Arizona State University, this counts as my student teaching. But in the school that I teach at, the middle school I teach at, I am the teacher in the classroom.
Thanks, Audrey. And so you're the teacher of record at the school. Awesome. Perfect. Liz?
Hi, everyone. So I am currently a 3rd grade student teacher at Horace W. Porter, and I'm a senior at Eastern Carnegie State University.
Perfect. So let's start off with talking about how you got started with Educators Rising. Was it a course? Was it a club? Was it a chapter? Did you just hear about it? Did you start your own chapter? Give me a little bit about how you got involved with Ed Rising.
So I got involved with Educators Rising my freshman year of high school, so 6 or 7 years ago now. And I remember I had seen that the teacher for the course, which was called Future Teachers Academy at the time, was Mr. Mayer, who was my favorite teacher. And I had always thought about being an educator when I grew up. So as soon as I saw that he was teaching it, I was like, okay, sign me up. And then I took the course, the first level, and I absolutely loved it. Then my sophomore year is when I was able to join Educators Rising. And then through there, I completed the course, and I competed at the state competition 2 or 3 times, my sophomore year, my junior year, and my senior year. And then my senior year of high school, I was the Arizona state president of the Arizona branch for educators. Rising, and then I also established an Educators Rising chapter at my university, Arizona State University, my freshman year, but then we ended up merging with Aspiring Educators.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Liz?
So similar to Audrey's story, one of my favorite teachers at New Britain High School was teaching, and we started at New Britain High School. My junior year, was the first year that it was at my school, so it started as an after-school program. And then for my junior year, I also competed at the national conference in Dallas, and yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I think the theme here, which I preach all the time, when you're starting a chapter or a course at the high school level, find your most inspiring, influential teacher, because people will flock to them. And if they are the best teacher, that's the one that you want to inspire. So these are two great examples of picking the right teacher for the course, because that's a recruitment strategy in and of itself, is finding the right teacher. So let's jump to you've already touched on a little bit, some of the opportunities that Ed Rising has afforded you. Liz mentioned Dallas, Audrey mentioned being the Arizona State president, that I had the absolute pleasure of working with Audrey when I worked in Arizona Ed Rising as well. Great leader. I know COVID kind of hit all of that, but what are some opportunities that you've had to either travel or leadership or scholarships or anything that Ed Rising has afforded you in terms of opportunities?
So for me, our state, Arizona, we have a full tuition scholarship called the Arizona Teachers Academy. And when I first enrolled in university in 2021, it was supposed to only go to students in their junior and senior year of studying to be a teacher. And I was coming in as a freshman, and I was like, okay, it wouldn't hurt to reach out and say, hey, I am affiliated with Educators Rising. This is what the program is. I feel like I'm a good candidate for this scholarship opportunity. If you're willing to take a chance on, someone who isn't in their second or third and fourth year of university. And they ended up giving it to me. So I've been able to get through school tuition free. I have not had to pay any tuition, any fees, anything like that. And I also earned a scholarship to Grand Canyon University my senior year because I got first place in one of the state competitions. And then my first job teaching was as a preschool teacher, and they do not hire, the school I worked at did not hire young people. And I knew I was kind of just like throwing it out there when I applied, and I walked in, and they were so interested in what Educators Rising was because they hadn't heard of programs like these, and they ended up hiring me, like freshly 18-year-old me, to teach preschool. And I was an assistant for a bit, and then they promoted me to be a lead. And I know that had I not had that experience through Educators Rising, I would not have gotten that scholarship, my freshman year to go through all of college, nor would I probably have been offered that position to start actually teaching at such a young age.
Wow, that just gave me goosebumps, Audrey. That's amazing and wonderful. Liz, opportunities that Ed Rising has afforded you?
So Ed Rising is actually the program that made me want to become a teacher. So my junior year, after attending the Dallas, Texas conference, I was able to network and meet so many different people of the same age who wanted the similar passion of teaching. So I was able to just kind of plant a seed and realize that I wanted to become a teacher. I was also able to meet so many different people of color in the field of education and learn more about how much of a shortage there is of people of color inside of education, and just kind of plant a seed of representation and learn more about different things that I can do as a teacher, and really how much of an inspiring passion or career it is.
Also, I know Liz probably isn't going to toot her own horn, but I also want to point out that someone from the Connecticut Department of Ed reached out to me and said, we have this fabulous student. And so I actually hired Liz as a contract employee for Educators Rising. So there's a lot of opportunities that come with it. And when you're great and people start telling you like how, telling other people how great you are, and just like Audrey said, throw yourself out there, ask, it's not going to hurt. And I think both of their experiences have shown us that it's students who go through Ed Rising are much more prepared when they get to college. And either of you like to talk? I hear this all the time, but would either of you like to mention how much further ahead you are than those that have not gone through Ed Rising?
Yeah, so for me, like I said, I completed the it's now called Education Professions, that course that is it's the co-curricular course with the Educators Rising program. I completed that in high school, and I recently just took my certification exams, and every single thing on the exam I learned in the Education Professions course in high school, and the majority of it, excuse me, I was like, I don't think I learned any of this in college. Like I was just thinking back about like all the things Mr. Mayer, my teachers, was like teaching us about. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember when he brought this up. Oh, when he brought this up, I remember doing this for a competition. And I felt so much more prepared when I was taking that exam because I had had that experience through Ed Professions and Educators Rising. And then I remember I also took my paraprofessional exam my senior year, and that one too, I felt so prepared because I'd learned everything that I needed to know already through the co-curricular course.
Thanks, Audrey. Liz, did you have anything?
Yeah, so during my after school program, we were able to go inside of the elementary school teachers and shadow elementary school, similar to what you do for your field work in college. So I kind of had like prior experience to working around students and being able to like shadow. So I was able to do a little bit more than my peers who were kind of just like sitting in the back of the classroom. I was able to actually like do small groups and able to teach the students a little bit more because I had like that background from Ed Rising.
Yeah, and I think, the internship in high school gives you that insight, right? Like we would rather you figure it out now if you love it, or if it's not for you, great, and I think both of you can attest to the fact that anything that you've learned in Ed Rising or Ed Professions would be a transferable skill had you not chosen this pathway. It still would have supported you in some way, but I'm glad that you get that experience, because I would much rather you decide in high school, this is not for me, than go to college and find out your fourth year during student teaching and you've wasted all of that time and then want to flip. So thank you both for sharing all of the opportunities that have been afforded to you through Ed Rising. Let's talk now about preparation for actual student teaching. So my situation of student teaching was very similar to Audrey's. I started as a student teacher and became the teacher of record during that time. Liz's is a little bit more traditional, where she has a teacher that she has in her classroom. But explain how your Ed Rising experiences prepared you for what you're currently doing right now.
I'm thinking like it made it so that I knew what to expect going in. Because a lot of what college prep is they're teaching you, okay, this is how we want you to write a lesson plan. These are the things you should implement. And the things I was doing in Education Professions and with Educators Rising, I did the mock interview. So I had to create a resume and a cover letter, and I had to interview with a panel of people for a teaching position, or it was a paraprofessional position, I'm sorry. And then I felt so much more prepared through Educators Rising going into teaching. And then for the student teaching, like once I got into this position, like where I am now, I was able to apply those things that I had done in those competitions that I've done all those years ago and put them into practice and like actually do them in front of a classroom of a bunch of 11, 12-year-olds. And it was really nice to finally be able to, stand up here and do the things that I have been preparing to do for the last 6, 7 years.
Thanks, Audrey.
I think for me, it prepared me for student teaching because it allowed me to continue to kind of like remember where I come from, because I go to a college that's about 45 minutes away from my regular home, and the community that I'm working in right now is a little different than what I grew up in. And so when I'm working and I'm student teaching, I always remember to just kind of remember New Britain and remember like the representation and how like how important it really is to become a teacher. And I also think that having those internships and having my paid internship kind of just allowed me to be able to get a feel of what it felt like to become a teacher, and prepared me more to like actually teach my lessons and or like more of what I was doing. So
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing, Liz. I always say that when my first 3 years of teaching, I look back and I always say, like, you students that were in Ed Rising wrote better lesson plans than I did my first 3 years. I swear I look back at them now and go, oh my goodness, my poor kids. But I know that because I see the lesson plan and delivery, I see the competitions, I see the work that you guys are putting in, and that's a direct reflection. Let's talk a little bit about the competitions. For anybody who's out there that has never been to national conference, has never entered a competition, what could they expect and what was your experience like?
I'm thinking it's so much, it's so much more than like you think, like in a good way. It is so much more than you expect it to be, because I remember my sophomore year, the first time I went, they needed like an extra person for the ethical dilemma competition, and I was like, oh, I'll do it, because I had never done any competitions before and I wanted to do that. And I thought, oh, I'm just gonna work out like how to solve this problem, and it's gonna be super easy. And then I started learning about IEP laws and how to accommodate students with disabilities and how to communicate difficult things to families. And I learned all of these things that actually apply to the job that I am now in. And even the children's literature one that I did my sophomore and junior year, like I had to learn about where, the kiddos who I was writing a book for, where are they at socially, emotionally? How can I, cater to these students who are, in grades K-3? How can I write, a novel or illustrate a novel or whatever, something that is interesting to them, teaches them something important, or has an important theme, has an important lesson, something like that. But it's also something that is going to, benefit them and that they can use in the classroom. And it really became a gateway to, wait, okay, I want to write a book about this. So now I need to start learning about how do third graders respond to this? What is the percentage of kindergartners who struggle with this thing? And it led to so much more learning than I thought that would even need to be, applied. And that's a really good thing.
Thanks, Audrey. Liz?
So for me, I feel like the conference I attended my junior year, and it was my first time ever on an airplane. It was my first time ever out of the state of Connecticut. And I remember just being so excited and not really knowing what a conference was, because my parents didn't go to college. So I was never really put in the position to have like similar experiences. And so walking into the conference, I remember seeing such a beautiful hotel and hearing like so many inspirational stories about teachers, and seeing a bunch of teachers who were peers my age who wanted to become teachers. So I think for students, especially in like urban and like inner city schools, who don't really have the same opportunities to travel and are able to like really network when it comes to teaching, I think that going to the conference allows them to see that, although, because I feel like teaching is not really seen as like a really like a high profession, when they go to the conference, you are able to experience a life-changing experience where you see, like this is not just teaching, this is also a way where you can network and you can build relationships, and you can just make such a big difference in the world. So I think the conference was like a really big like event for students to learn that, especially in high school and middle school.
So inspiring, Liz. I agree with you. And I say this every webinar. If anyone says that no one wants to be a teacher, come to the national conference where you see over 3,000 people taking summer break, teachers and students to come to the conference and compete. And it also builds that collaborative community that we talk about at Ed Rising so much. We want to make sure that you're meeting other people with similar interests and similar goals, and stay in touch with them, and don't be on an island in your school. Stay in touch with those partners. And I think that's where Audrey mentioned Aspiring Ed. You have that chapter at your school that you can be in the same group, the same chapter, and it really helps you to feel a little bit more supported. The next question is about advice. What advice would you give to administrators or district level admin about providing EdRising as an opportunity if they don't have it, or even if they do, like, how could they amp it up? How could they make it better? Both of you had very great experiences in high school. So what advice would you give to district leaders or administrators about having the program?
I think like what you were saying about how they have to employ like those teachers that are going to inspire those kids, your most inspiring teachers. Those are the teachers you want to have in that teacher leader position, because they're already out there doing the work that we as Educators Rising students are being, raised up to do. They are the model and the example. Every single day I walk in and I always think to myself, oh, I am doing something that Mr. Mayor totally did, or oh my gosh, I remember when Mrs. Edwards, who's now the coordinator at the high school I went to, I remember when she did this and I'm doing that. And it's you're providing your students not only like a positive role model to lead the program, but you're also giving them an example of who they should be when they go into the classroom. They don't need to be a carbon copy, but if they're watching, this one teacher who absolutely loves their job and is so passionate about education, if they see that, they're going to feel that. And one of my biggest things I always say is that the biggest thing about being an educator, other than building those really good relationships with your kids, is show them that you love what you do. You love what you're teaching about, because that is how you're going to make an impact on these kids. And then the grow your own, I know like personally, I have looked at the high school I went to so many times in the last 2 years to see if there are any openings for the subject material I teach. They asked me when I am properly certified and I'm able to get CTE certified, they asked me if I will take over the program. So I think that this is it's a good investment, because you're most of the time, like it said, 60% of your students stay within 20 miles of their community. If you have, say 100 kids in your program, 60 of them are likely going to stay in your community. And how many of them are going to then come back to your school and serve your school?
Thanks, Audrey. Liz?
I was going to say something very similar, because Miss Frioli, the teacher who taught the class, and that was the head of the club, she was very inspirational and very, very positive and had like a very good outlook on education. So I think just like getting someone who is a part of the community and also represents the students who are teaching that community and is able to just really know their content and their skill, and is able to just have that kind of heart to heart about teaching and grow that like passion for those students.
Thank you so much. So number one is, your advice would be to find that one inspiring teacher and have them start a chapter. If they don't have a chapter, to start the course is a CT. It could be a CTE program, but even a very low touch after school program. I know I have some chapters here in Arizona that started at the middle school level and just started as a leadership club. And then they started working with the elementary schools. So there's a lot of different points of entry that you can have as well. I'm going to look in the Q&A and see if anyone has put any questions in for either of you. None have been asked of you just yet. If anyone on the webinar has a question for either Liz or Audrey, you are free to throw that in the Q&A now. We'll give them a minute, and then we'll just talk a little bit more. We do have resources available for you if you need them, if you need the curriculum, if you need teaching fundamentals modules. Again, as Audrey and Liz said, go to the conference. Liz is not the only person that has the first time on a plane or outside of their city to come to conference. I rode on a plane with a student from Arizona to nationals in Orlando one year that also had never been on a plane or been out of. It is an experience for your students. And I urge you, if you don't even have a chapter started yet, come to the conference and just check it out. Just check it out. If you need resources, you can contact me for the curriculum or any of those resources. Starting a chapter is free. It takes one teacher and one student to start a chapter. Students are $15, teachers are free to start the chapter. There's a lot of different entry points for you to get started and get that motion started so that, like Audrey said, 100 kids, 60% of them come back. What if out of those 60 kids come back, 20 of them were teachers? It's worth your return on investment to start a chapter, especially in rural districts where there's not a lot of housing options for your students. Question for Audrey. Audrey, can you tell us the name of the scholarship that you were awarded?
Yes, it is through the State of Arizona Board of Regents. It's called the Arizona Teachers Academy. So it's a scholarship, but it's conditional. So every year you receive the scholarship regardless of how much it is. You then in turn teach for a year in a public school in Arizona. So I'm graduating a year early. So I have received it for 3 years. So I have to teach in an Arizona public school for the next 3 years in order to fulfill my commitment to the funding from the Department of Education. I apologize if you heard that. There's a class next to me, but it is a really amazing opportunity because I mean, I'm graduating debt free. There's, that I don't have to worry about student loans coming out of school. And that is a really, really huge thing. And, staying in Arizona and teaching in Arizona public school, I was going to do that anyway. So it's really not any additional promises on my side.
Thanks, Audrey. The next question is, what is your recommendation for a school that is just getting started with an Ed Rising chapter? How can you create school energy and interest?
So when I first joined Ed Rising, it was the first year that my school had ever done it. And some of the ways that we got more students to join was we would do fun little fundraisers, and we would also do presentations and just have kids just come in. And a lot of the times we would just talk about how important teaching was. And even if they weren't didn't want to go into the field of education, just kind of putting an emphasis on leadership and how important leadership roles are so that they can transfer those skills onto other careers as well. So just getting things that the school and the climate are involved with, and also just a lot of advertisement. They now have a social media account. It's grown so much since I've left in 2020, but it's gone they've done it little by little. So just growing the social media and collaborating with all their clubs as well, and just having little intro meetings just so that the students are more aware of it.
Awesome, thank you. And that was Connecticut, right? All right. Another question. Oh, it looks like a question was disappeared. All right, we answered that one. Is the Arizona State is not, I guess this is another question for Audrey. Is the Arizona State Scholarship associated with Ed Rising? That's an Arizona program, but because she was in Ed Rising, she was able to, okay. I just want to make sure we answered that. What advice would you give to a brand new teacher starting a chapter to get students interested? I always say food, right? Food.
Yeah, food. I actually am doing my best to get that an Educators Rising chapter established at my middle school as well. I've been kind of in the works for the last year now, because I wanted to get it established this year, but with student teaching and all of that, it was so much. But my big thing was make yourself known to the kids, build those good relationships, because you will get the kiddos who do not would never think that they would want to be a teacher, and they will show up at your door because Miss Stoner has food and she's my favorite teacher, so I'm going to show up. And if you can get that kid in there and then they realize through that, oh my gosh, I want to be a teacher, or even if they don't and they just enjoy some of the opportunities that Educators Rising is affording them, or they just enjoy being in a space with people who are really passionate about developing their career and technical skills before they go off to college, that's really how you're going to be able to build it up. But the food is a big one. That's how I run the book club at my school, and the way I got a bunch of kids the first time is I said there'd be free donuts. So
Works, it works. Liz, do you have anything about starting a chapter? Anything additional? I know you already gave a couple of things.
No, I would say Audrey's answer is really good. Food will definitely get people to come.
Yeah, I would also say, in my experience, I would suggest to start with your middle school chapters when they're back to school night, when they're getting ready to register for new classes, have a table, have your kids go down there. At parent-teacher conferences, you can have what we call a babysitters club, where parents can have their kids stay with you in their classroom and watch them while they go attend parent-teacher conferences. And community service, get out in the community, join with the other CTSOs, join with the other clubs, do some community service, get your name out there. Go to your local bank. Sometimes local banks have to give a community service match so they can give you some funds to start your chapter, to get things going. Actually, I also want to plug for everyone asking about recruitment and energy and interest. We're having a recruitment webinar featuring 3 teachers next month, April 28th, I believe. And they're going to share all of their, I'm sorry, April 25th. April 25th, we're going to have 3 teachers from different states. They've had their chapter grow exponentially over the last few years, and they're going to give you all of their tips and tricks on how to recruit and grow your chapter and get a presence there too. So if you'd like to join, then that announcement and that registration will be coming out soon. One other question was about, this seems to be all about Arizona. No, Liz is from Connecticut. Audrey is from Arizona, and Ed Rising is in all 50 states, and we have state affiliation agreements with 38 states. So if you're not sure if your state has an affiliation or you need an affiliation, please feel free to reach out to me. We do have a QR code on the screen, and we can get you some early access for the curriculum. But as always, I just want to thank Audrey and Liz. I have known them now, I've known Audrey a little longer, but I've worked with Liz, and you are both outstanding, amazing people, first of all, second of all, teachers, and hardworking and caring. And you're exactly what we need in our classrooms. And I'm so excited to continue to see your growth, to continue to see your contributions, and for you both to be Ed Rising teacher leaders soon in the future. For the audience, anybody that has any questions that weren't answered, you can feel free to email me. My email address is on the screen right now. Feel free to email me, if you feel to call me, if you need resources, if you need help starting a chapter, if you need anything. Please also utilize your teacher leader portal. There's a lot of free resources in there. There's a lot of competitions and things that you can look at and gain some insight there. So I just want to say thank you one more time to Audrey and Liz. You're both very special people to me, and I am so, so grateful that you've joined us today. And I hope our audience got a little insight into how wonderful Ed Rising has prepared you to be amazing teachers. So thank you so much for being here. Everybody have a wonderful night.